everybody, and welcome to this enriching discussion. So, we've got a panel which is obviously really, focused on expanding their footprint. We've got some stalwarts who've, taken a lot of decisions and discussions about how to go about their expansion. So I think what's really relevant in today's time is that how data-led is your expansion? How do you go about assessing risk factors? How are the markets evolving? And how prepared are we to kind of, look at these evolving markets or maturing markets? And Manik, I'd like to start with you there that, how is it that we are, identifying new markets? What are the factors that go into identification of potential locations? Because obviously Adidas is got multiple models, multiple brands within the formats. And across cities, across different types of asset classes, you've got your factory outlets going as well. So, just the important points to consider.
Thanks, Akshi. Am I audible? Thanks. It's as easy as it is difficult in these times to look for a space in a completely new market. I'll say easy because there are multiple brands which can feed different pocket size of customers these days. And you do have a lot of them available in India. So you do see most of them somewhere or the other. So the decision making becomes easier in these kind of locations. But the challenge, then there are still two challenges. One, every brand has a different average ticket size, right? Even if a great brand like Zudio is doing a turnover of 2.5 CR in a new market, is that market still ready for Adidas customer? Because my minimum price point after discounting will also be much higher than that. So that's a tricky question, which we have to evaluate the way we have to. But at the same time, there are certain markets which are completely naked. There is no brand that is entered. I think pin code data that comes for online sales is definitely a very good idea. That tells you about the pocket size, but that does not tell you the intent of customer walking out to the market. And I think that can be tested only when you test the waters. So what typically I do, I talk to my fellow brands in the country. कि तू भी साथ चल ले तो हम भी कुछ कर लेंगे. But no, it's easier because see, everybody has their own intelligence. So where I have my data to support and we also do a lot of a decision based on gut feeling. Obviously that gut is based on some data, but it's not data always. And that's how this business grows in the country. And then, yeah, there are other brands also when we get into a conversation. There could be a market where so till about a certain time, we were not evaluating certain markets because we did not have our direct competition brands. Campus is a great inspiration for us in certain markets because we worked on a new model where considering the kind of business a brand like Campus was doing, that created an opportunity for us also. And that's how we introduced a category called footwear only. So these are markets which do not have big store sizes at all, but there is still enough meat over there. So we introduced a category which is footwear only, predominantly 700 to 900 square feet of stores. That becomes a very good entry point. And with time, when the market evolves, it becomes a great story of success after that. And in one of the conversations, I gave example of Decathlon as well. Any new market where Decathlon enters, I know it's going to be ready for us in 1 year's time. Because when you've tasted waters with that kind of brand, your aspirational will grow with time, and we are ready for that.
So, so if I was to gather what you're saying, it's basically looking at certain key brands which you feel are indicators if they're doing well, if they're expanding to go into different markets. And obviously, understanding the income levels, but then finally testing the waters.
Yes, and there are also markets where, as I said, there are none of these brands available.
Yeah.
That's when your gut comes into the conversation because there might be something happening there. There might be some F&B which is giving you some data about the market. But yeah, in most of these cases, it's your gut feel. It's been fine that way so far.
And Mali, if you were to answer that question with the diverse portfolio of brands that Arvind has, would some of those points hold up for your portfolio as well?
Well, I have a slightly different take on this. One, I think clarity of thought, that is the fundamental aspect of expansion. The other other thing what we really do is the team. Having the best team is something is super critical for expansion. Because what amount of data, what amount of competition which is actually doing there, if you are not relevant and if you don't visit the market, so what we essentially do is we visit the market in the morning, we also visit the market in the evening because the market behaves so differently. Sure. That's one part. And when you have team in place who knows the market well, it is the vibe which you actually create in. Because sometimes, you know, while we call it as gut, but it is the vibe which actually tells you whether we need to be there or not there. See, today it is quite simple. See, there are malls where we will have to be there. I mean, there's no choice. It is just the location of the malls where you need to be there. Where the confusion is all about high street and which metros, which non-metros, right? And there's something called micro markets which are actually coming in. So instead of going and expanding probably 5 stores in Bangalore, today across the portfolio, there could be a situation that we can open 50 stores in Bangalore. How do you actually identify those micro markets rather than going and, you know, opening a store in probably a Kolar, right? So it's very important, one, build the team right who understands the market. That's one thing which we really do. The second point which I would like to emphasize is, of course there's a lot of pressure from senior management. Where there's no pressure, every company has pressure too. But we don't budge into pressure. Because we want to open stores which will stay whether Mali is there, not there in the organization. They have to stay considerable for the next 12 years, not even 9 years. So you will have to be relevant for that particular store. It doesn't matter. Gali sun lenge, but quality store is what we will open.
So, I think...
There was a lot of firmness there, huh? I love that.
Not to buckle under pressure. Do the right thing always. Dhruv, your thoughts on this?
No, I completely agree with what the other panelists over here just said. So we have got 2 formats. One is an MBO format, which is 20,000 square feet, which we call StanMax, and where we sell all men, women, and kids categories. And the other format is a smaller format, which is our own brand called Global Republic, for which we open stores roughly the size of 1,000 to 2,500 square feet. A few days back, I was traveling with my BD in Punjab for some work. And I asked him, we were there in Zirakpur, which is a suburban area inside Punjab, just outside Mohali. And there were around 20 malls which were in development over there. And we wanted to open a store in Zirakpur. And we were asking each other where to open our store. Which mall should we open our store in? Which high street should we open a store in? So at the end of the day, we realized it was just a gamble. We were in a casino and we didn't know which place to put our bets on. But in order to make it a calculated gamble, if there is any one of you who wants to start their own fashion brand or who wants to expand rapidly, what I would suggest is to look at the promoter's backup as well. What is his experience while opening a mall? How much churning is there in his mall? And is he retailer or brand friendly or not? Which I look at while opening a store as well. There are a few more things which I do. I also look at the property prices around, which I think most of the people over here do, to understand what kind of audience am I getting. But what Sir just said, that why do we want to be there in that market, is something which we always answer before opening any store. That is one of the reasons why we make sure that each and every single store of StanMax and Global Republic is profitable and will be profitable in the near future. Thank you.
Yeah. So I think, again, I would completely agree with the points that you made, and those are good parameters to have, to try and kind of have a checklist in place to say that, if these things are okay or they're 80% there, I think I'm kind of entering into something that I feel could work out for me. Karthik, how do you go about, thinking? And now you've got a variety of viewpoints of how different brands are thinking and looking at real estate. So which one ticks the boxes for you?
Manik says safe place to be. I was like, how can I say something all over again differently? But no, I think all of it is relevant. And I think from a, okay, if I were to go back from a campus shoes perspective, I think, and I'd give a lot of credit to my predecessors on this. They're very early to identify the trends of micro markets. In the sense that I think as a brand, they started following the consumer rather than the market itself. So if you know who your cohort of consumers are within the larger TG, possibly this exercise could become slightly more easier. Well, there's a huge gut and a huge bet instinct that comes in. So I think we started following the consumer cohort that we really wanted to go after. So if I were to define it very loosely, it's not the Adidas consumer or a lot of these brands, but it's more democratic in the sense that SEC A, SEC B, an 18 to 25-year-old. So you find these consumers inside a Delhi, NCR, or a Bombay. You also find them in a Gorakhpur, as well as a Calcutta or a Madurai, or so on and so forth. Which is why if you look at a spread of stores today, it ranges right from the big 3 cities to your tier 2, tier 3s, and so on and so forth. The other major element that we look at is that we've been an offline first brand from a legacy perspective. Now, legacy is all not that bad. There are things that we can learn from it. So we started to study where did our distributors do well and where did they not do well. What are the sort of products that actually sell in certain catchments, certain districts of UP or in Rajasthan? And then we start taking a bet to say that, can I now move that consumer from a traditional mom and pop store and give him a slightly better experience in our own store, whether that is franchise owned and operated or a direct brand store. So for us, that's a very interesting space because that's where our consumer lifecycle journey actually is. Because we're not much on the premium side, so we understand that the consumer comes to us not because we are an aspirational brand, but we're a great value for money brand, and that would give you, let's say, a 5,000 rupee product at 2,500 rupees. So what does a consumer want? He wants a very easy, quick in and out experience, bang for the buck, and you find these consumers everywhere. So maybe it's a little easier for us because where we go, we know we have that cohort of consumers. The interesting part for us is now the high street versus mall toss-up. We are primarily a high street brand. But today we also have a relative aspiration, as I call it, to move up the value chain. So therefore, mall presence becomes pretty critical. And within the mall, amongst what cohort of brands are you present in? That's a challenge because it's a commercial challenge rather than a presence challenge for us. So that's something that I think hopefully we solve over the course of the next 12 to 24 months.
No, thank you so much again. Gaurav, just going to you. You've heard about brands expanding. You've heard about the decisions they make. You're obviously developing millions of square feet. How do you assess what brands you want to have in which center? Obviously, they look at the pin codes, but you look at the catchment. So I would say a lot of factors would overlap, even if you were doing a development. And how much in detail do you assess that before you come up with the positioning of your developments?
So I think I start with what Manik said, कि साथ चलना बहुत ज़रूरी है. आज की market में there is no consortium. So there has to be a consortium with the national brands. Maybe that includes all categories of brands, maybe kids wear, ethnic wear, men's, women, kids, sports wear. So they can meet collectively a developer, choose a particular project in a catchment where they think that they can do good business because catchment is the prime importance. And we can develop a mall or a high street project wherein all the brands come together, start their business together. If they need any help in terms of strategy from the developer side, marketing side, we can do that wholeheartedly. So it is very pertinent to have all like-minded brands together in a high street project in Gurgaon. Since we as a developer, we have maximum project in the epicenter of Gurugram, that is Golf Course Road Extension. So what I see, there is a mismatch in terms of the brands that are opening there. So I saw so many value brands which are getting operational on Golf Course Road Extension, and they are not performing because of the catchment. The people are living there in an apartment which start from 6 crores till 30 crore rupees. Trump is getting delivered there. So there is little mismatch in terms of the brand expansion, especially on the Golf Course Road Extension.
You have a very valid point there. But somebody leaves those spaces to those value brands, right? Giving them a story that you and me think differently about. Me? No, not me. Alok, your thoughts on this? How is it that you view?
So for us, we are a new brand, uh, just 3 years old. We opened our first store in February 22. We are now 110 stores in span of 36 months. So for us, it was more about making sure customers trust us, and the idea of getting stores in not just about the catchment, but in a city being seen as a brand that's available. So we did some mistakes earlier where we opened only a single store or a couple of stores in a city. That really didn't help us, but plonking more stores near each other and being able to get the buzz on the brand made sense for us. So we now are like 17, 18 stores in Bangalore, almost 20 stores in Hyderabad. So rather than looking at just the catchment, having a spread on with the brand was more important. The other big one for us was in terms of prioritization on a supply chain part of it, wanting to be able to send stocks to the store in 2 days. So how do I look at my supply chain strategy in line with my network? So these were the two things that we looked at when we looked at experts.
No, I think, again, very, very valid points, because you may want to or wish to be in a city, and I'll like to take this question back to Manik. You want to be in a city, but what's the minimum distance or criteria that you would look at from your existing store? And how does that drive the decision to go to a particular city or a catchment?
I think more than the distance, it's the travel time and what we understand out of that catchment, because there is something called a destination mall where people would, the locals would travel during the week, and on the weekends you'll have people traveling from 200 kilometers also. And we do have quite a few examples of that in the country. But then there is something like a neighborhood mall, because travel time is something that bothers everyone today. Sure. The ease and the convenience of reaching a place, to be able to park there conveniently, which is an outcome of how well you have planned the traffic and how many parking spaces you have. I think these are the factors that now have become. So there could be places where we are just 3 kilometers away from one store, but it's a completely different catchment, completely different trade zone. It could also be differentiated by the premiumness of the place, whether this particular part of the city is a value-centric and 3 kilometers away is a premium situation. It varies from, and it could be a Bangalore situation, it could be an Indore situation. It could also be a Jalandhar situation. But that is how we are evaluating now. Yes, there was a time we were depending a lot upon the distance, but it's not the same situation anymore. And people with a kind of, I think especially post-COVID, when people have started valuing their health a little more, the ease of going out and shopping, I think it's more of an experience that people want to enjoy. And because of the flexi hours, people have split their shopping times. For example, my wife is a techie. They also get occasional Fridays off. So my wife goes to a mall at 10:30 on a Friday morning, and she tells me it's crowded. The only merit is that she doesn't have to stand in queue. She'll do her shopping. She'll then enjoy her coffee or a lunch, and then she'll come out. And there are countless people like that. It's a trend that I'm seeing in different cities. If I have to go to a certain brand, obviously I don't have the luxury of shopping on a weekday. But if I have to go to a brand, I will go at 10:30 on a weekend, preferably a Saturday morning, so that by the time major crowd comes in, I'm done with that. So I think for us, it's more designed with the ease and convenience of the shoppers that we perceive as a shopper. Of course, it's backed by data. It's backed by visits in that locations also. There are certain locations which become great destination for F&B also. I think we try to learn by mistakes. At times, it was supposed to be a F&B destination only. We misunderstood that as an F&B and retail destination. I think that'll continue happening, but and we'll continue learning.
Yeah, means I think you win some, you lose some, and then, like you said, you
absolutely
finally learn by jumping in there, right?
I think we are learning. I think so. I would like to believe so.
So Mali, again, your thoughts on how much data is, means I just think that over a period of time, the amount of, and obviously we're privy to a lot of work that's done by retailers to choose expansion based on data, heat maps, exact pin codes, sizes, colors. Retailers come armed with information about a catchment, and yet sometimes it doesn't click, right? So, means how much of that data sometimes plays out and how much of it doesn't?
Please don't rub it.
See, I think actually business development is an art. It is not about, breaking your, self too much. My boss has a favorite quote, don't break your, brain and have your split hair, right? We actually overthink certain times. It's as simple as what we really want to be. If the strategy document is in place, loosely use word strategy, but if the document is in place, we are very clear that we want to open 200 stores in a year. We have 5 brands, we will open 200 stores. Which are those malls where we are coming in? There are 30 malls which we are coming in. We will open probably about 90 odd stores. Very clear. In that 90 odd stores, today we have 800 stores. The competition probably should be having about 2,500 stores. I'm not worried about so much of data, so much of heat maps to come in. We have 75 high street markets in 9 marquee cities. We are very clear. Today we are not there. Let us be there. We will keep it as simple as there should not be any tree, there should not be any electrical pole, there should not be a bus stand. I need to have a 20 feet, I need to have 11 feet height. Simple. There's a positive vibe. You see that store, if the adjacency is not there, it doesn't matter. We have a positive vibe. If 3 things, basically things are aligned, we are there, right? The smallest of the locations, most of us keep talking about CP, E block, D block, C block having multiple stores and best of the competition having, probably we have 2 stores there. But locations like Himayat Nagar in Hyderabad, diagonally opposite, we have 2 US Polo stores. We're doing about 35 lakhs each. Now, what vibe do I get whether should I open a diagonally opposite store or not? We've opened a multi-brand format right next to my US Polo store, which is a 6,500 square feet. From day one, we are doing a 1 lakh rupees business there. It is about vibe which you get, having clear clarity of what you want to be. There are so many times I get proposals saying that which is out of this radar. If it is 5% which is not in the radar is fine, but 95% has to be on the radar what we have thought through. If I need to have on this MG Road Gurgaon, I better have on MG Road Gurgaon and not the side lane. If your thought process is clear, AI, heat maps, that location, consumer walking in, will not walk in, it is all about creating a wonderful store which is the Taj Mahal, have the best of the teams to give you service. That's it. It's as simple as that. We just complicate ourselves. Kya ho jayega? You don't know what to worry with. We're just worried about for the next 12 months. Let's see next year ka kya hoga.
So it's AI versus common sense. No, and I would agree with you. In retail, you know the markets that you want to be in, and a lot of times we overthink basic decisions, and hence we get stuck with overthinking. Karthik, if you were to answer that question again, to say that, how much of your expansion is data-led?
I mean, it is. I mean, it's not that data doesn't help, but I completely agree with what Mallikarjun says, that, I mean, how much is too much when it comes to data? And I think more importantly, we need to have capability to read the data, which sadly, to say it's not just from a BD point of view, as an industry, I think we lag behind here, massively. You can have tons of data, fancy presentations, and use all the AI that you want, but if you don't know what you're going to do with it, which is where you, like he said, you need that clarity of thought, it's all pointless. But from a campus perspective, I think, yeah, I mean, for us, being a far more democratic brand, it was a lot easier. We also did take a lot of bets to go and create those micro markets because our margin for error is actually a little lesser than these guys, right? Because we have a lot less on the line. But our upsides are still the same. For us, where we will kind of have a challenge, or brands like us, which are very value-centric, looking at, let's say, the 75% of the young Indian consumer who has only that finite amount of money that he's going to spend or she's going to spend. when we start getting into the big cities, when we start looking at malls, that's where the real problem is. So here's food for thought from a real estate perspective. All real estate creation is centered around brands that let's just bucket them as aspirational, right? All of these gentlemen sitting right next to me. How about for brands that are actually looking, that are in the middle, right? They're neither here nor there, but from a scale point of view, they're huge. And there are thousands of brands in India across footwear, apparel, sport, you name it. That's going to be an interesting futuristic perspective because we're going to have micro catchments where all of this is going to coexist. So you might have, let's say, a DLF Mall of India in Noida, and GIP opposite might just become a mass market mall and pull in brands like that. Both seem to coexist. But I think there's a lot of scope from a space creation point of view across tier 1, tier 2, as well as major cities, from a brand segmentation perspective.
Yeah, diversification across pricing, brackets, etc. Every mall developer wants to become aspirational. Gaurav, your thoughts on this? Means one is, I think Mali's brought this up a couple of times today, that vibe is extremely important. When you go to a place, the vibe of the place tells you whether you want to be there or not. So what is it that, are some of the things that you are doing in your centers which is helping in creating that vibe or that experience to bring people back in, or for retailers to feel that the environment's conducive for them to operate in?
So we have a F&B destination that is International Financial Center. It's in Gurgaon. We have 55 amazing F&B brands doing wonderful numbers. So for their better footfall, we have a proper marketing team aligned. Those who are doing the events, they are getting people even from the Delhi to have maybe for the breakfast. People are coming from Delhi just for the breakfast at IFC. So that is a kind of niche market that we have created in Gurugram. And now we are expanding to malls also. So there are 3 big destinations. One is Dwarka Expressway, second is Golf Road, third is so 3 malls are coming up very soon. And one important development is that now we are on the brand side. We have invested into a brand called Cult, K-U-L-T. It's a marketplace for the cosmetics. So it is right now online. We will be expanding it to offline stores very soon. So for that, I will be needing help from all the retailers. So yeah, we are a very retail pro company right now. We want to create or build a marketplace and a perfect place for destination and shopping and F&B. Thank you.
Again, Dhruv, when you're choosing a place, how much of an experiential retail are you putting into your stores? You're doing large stores, right? So means with the, and I'm a strong believer of omni-channel, so I don't think anything replaces one another. But how is it that one you're integrating, and how is it that are you trying to bring in more experiential elements into your stores? They're family stores. So is there something that you're doing to incorporate that?
That's a very good question. I would say right now, all the people sitting in this panel would probably agree with me that product differentiation is not there anymore. A product is either 10% plus or 10% minus than your competitor product. But everybody over here pitches about the quality, that the quality is best. No person intentionally would make a product which is quality inferior product. So the only differentiating factor which lies with the retailer is with the kind of service and ambience which you are giving to your customers. So for example, at StanMax, what we do is, in all the malls that we are present in, roughly a mall has a footfall of 4 lakh people coming in their malls in a month. We generate around 60,000 of footfall in that particular mall, which is roughly around 15% of that mall's footfall. Considering that there are around 7 to 8 anchors in a mall, we generate 15%, so that's a good amount of footfall we are generating. What we do for that is we do a lot of marketing activities for those customers. So for example, if I'm a local player, I have stores in Delhi NCR region. So I can take advantage of that over those people who are operating nationally. So what I basically do is, for example, this Holi, I distributed around 5,000 boxes of Gunjia with co-branding of Bikaner and Stanmax, and I gave to our customers, I hand-delivered to our customers. I didn't send them through a courier. And I sent them to my top 5,000 customers out of the 6 lakh customers we have. Out of those 5,000 customers, 4,300 customers came back to us. And we increased our revenue by 3 crores in the month of March using that one marketing activity. So we try to do around 12 flagship events in our stores every year, 1 event per month. Generally, in a month, we try to make sure that there is 1 week in a month where we can double our footfall in that particular week. That generally helps us increase our revenues and stay afloat. And this is the kind of experience we try to provide our customers as well.
I have to say, it was an extremely innovative idea. And if I was your consumer, I would love to get that box of bhujia as
You
well.
can still be.
But extremely innovative. And I think it's the personalization, Dhruv, in retail that makes all the difference. So definitely you guys are getting that right. Your closing remarks, on this.
So from an experience point of view, I think the biggest thing that we believe is experience at the point of sale, where the customer is billing. And our intention was to make sure that there's no queues in the store, and hence tech needed to get in. We are RFID enabled. Anything between 8 to 12 pieces of garments being sold at the processing time is less than 2 minutes, including payments. So that is something that we worked on from day one. That was the reason for us to look at. The other was to make sure that the store teams are geared to look at customer service only and not get distracted by other activities that the store team used to do. So there's a lot of tech interventions there too. So these 2 things is something that we focused on to make sure that customers get the attention and they deserve, and that's what we wanted to do.
No, I think, customer experience is everything. Like what most of us have, said, consumption's happening. It's about giving them the right experience and making them feel like, really valued when they walk in. So one last word from everyone about, their most important expansion point, if I was to say, for the year ahead. And Mali, maybe we can start with you and then move towards Manik and then from Gaurav.
No, I think clarity of thought is number 1. Execution, execution, execution. That's it.
Thank you. Dhruv?
I would say go with the hub and spoke model. Don't open stores anywhere and everywhere. Make sure that you get the supply chain and marketing right by opening stores in a particular location to make it profitable, and then move on to the next location.
Karthik?
Just follow the consumer. Follow the consumer.
Create consortium, create magic.
Manik?
I think it's, is it a location for me only, or is it a place where multiple brands can grow and eventually make it a destination for all? I don't need the best place for myself only. It has to be the best place for everyone.
Yeah, I echo what my colleague said. Basically having stores near to each other, getting the marketing right, and be able to deliver goods on time.
Thank you so much. I think I've learned a lot today myself from this session. And thank you so much, everybody, for your inputs. And thank you so much, audience.
Thank you so very much.